Stock market's wacky. I don't know if anybody knows that. Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer, Bulwark Capital, friend of the show, sponsor of the show. All right, brother. People are terrified. You know that. I think this has been one of those. This may be the most chaotic week you've probably had because a lot of people are asking questions like, "What the F is going on?"
You know, we actually haven't had a lot. We're having a decent start to the year. We're up between 3-4% on the year. We had a nice little day today. We were up 25 basis points today, but so our clients aren't freaking out too much. I'll tell you, man, nobody's wanted to listen to this, but it feels very obvious. What is happening in the stock market right now, I think, is 100% healthy. I think it makes 100% sense. I think it makes all the sense in the world. And in a lot of ways, I feel like this market is more grounded and more sober than it's been in a long time. And the reason I say that is, first of all, we need some perspective.
Yes.
Okay. We are about 10% off the all-time high. Okay. In an average year, the stock market pulls back at least once between 10 to 12% off its high that year. That is a totally normal occurrence. Second of all, what is getting hit in this market? The reason it's killing people is because people were irresponsibly positioned and all loaded up on the same 7 stocks. You and I have been talking about this for a year, right? And just saying, guys, the dollar has peaked. You're instituting tariffs, which mandates for company. For 15 years, the United States market has been the only game in town.
Yeah.
That is how the United States market, that's how the S&P 500 has gotten to a point where it is now equal to 70% of global market cap. By far and away a record for any market. And when you consider the fact that we make up 15% of economic activity around the world, 70% is way too much, right?
Way too much.
So what's happening now? What's happening is you've got tariffs. You've got, I don't want to use the word a trade war because it's not. I would say it's a trade squirt gun war. Okay. But what all of that stuff does is cause countries to repatriate capital. Okay. So look at what's happening in the US. Dollar down, bonds basically down, not rallying though as stocks fall, right? Yeah. So effectively you've got dollar down, bonds down, stocks down, gold up, international stocks up. What does that tell you? It tells you people are selling US assets. And every time you see the market rip, you see selling come into it. This is classic distribution. And what's crazy is you look at the pain and consternation out there, all the stocks that are getting hit, Chad, they're getting less insane, right? Palantir has now shed 40% of its market cap. It's still trading at 50 times revenue.
Yeah.
Okay. So these things are getting back down to earth. Apple is getting smoked. I've been telling you for months, that stock is ridiculously priced. It needs to get killed. Tesla, we made 60% shorting Tesla. Why? It was grossly overpriced. So these things are coming back down to earth, but my message isn't just about avoiding the pain. The other thing I'll tell you is I don't think we're close to done. I don't see any signs of capitulation. I don't see any bid coming into duration in this market, meaning I don't see rates dropping on the long end. Now, I don't know what markets do from one day to the next. I just know that I have not seen a single sign yet that would lead me to believe this broader sell-off is going on. But here's what I want to tell people. It doesn't matter. You don't need to be exposed to this. You know what hit a new all-time high today? Gold. Our gold stocks crushed. Our international stocks are doing great and they're dirt cheap and we're collecting dividends. They say they don't ring a bell at the top. I think they just did. And I have never seen a more obvious sign to diversify. You don't have to fire sale everything in the US, but investors need to realize you are more concentrated, even if you're just sitting in an ETF, you are more concentrated in US assets than you've ever been at any time. Okay. So what do you do when one basket gets too big? You rebalance.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what people need to do. And you need to start looking outside of the 7 stocks in the market that anybody's paid attention to for the last 12 years. And there's phenomenal opportunities out there. But if you're just going to sit there and keep parked out in US stocks, I'll tell you, it hasn't been a fun month. And I think you got a lot more pain ahead of you.
Talking to Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer, Bulwark Capital. This market is, again, it's all over the place. The trade side of it, people are worried about tariffs, what's going to happen. You look at this market, and I've said it's getting its sea legs. It's getting back to normal. You and I, in fact, I've been filling in this week with Mock over there on the Chicks on the Right. We love the Chicks on the Right. And we always joke, about you always saying, I love Costco, but it's not worth 65 times valuation, what it's for its revenue. That's insane.
Yeah,
So
no.
where is the balance in this market, you think?
Well, I think we're trying to figure that out. So if you just step back and look at things on a comparable basis, like I've said 100 times, the United States deserves to trade at a premium. And until something massive shifts, that is always going to be the case. But when do you know that that premium has gotten too extended? When it's the biggest it's ever been for any market in the history of financial markets. And when you're sitting there looking at stocks that in every way, shape, and form are growing faster, cleaner balance sheets, trading at a discount to book value. And then you flip around and look at these US stocks that are trading at 15 times revenue. So anyway, long story short, unfortunately, I think that this could last a much longer time than most people think, because that valuation gap, look, at the end of the day, all financial assets, people have to remember that when we're looking at wealth or we're looking at money, everything is relative, right? Yeah. So if you've got the richest guy in a country that's worth $100, doesn't sound like a lot, but he's still really rich, right? Like just by default, because relatively to everybody else, he's got more money. So when we're looking at financial assets, we need to realize that look, if you've got a business in one country or the other, could that business, could that one country be a better geographical location? Could it be more stable? Could it make the company more valuable? Yes. But you need to have some level of uniformity, right? Yeah. Money does not care what multiplies it faster. Money does not have a home country bias, right? It doesn't prefer Brazil over Finland, right? You know what I mean? So where money wants to go is where it's treated the best. And where it's typically treated the best is where you get the most value. Like I said, I've got no problem with certain markets, and certain markets should trade with a premium. But what we're in an effort right now is, I think we've just started, and I think it's going to be a long process. We've just started to try to fill in the greatest valuation gap that we've ever seen in modern market history. And so what I think you're going to see is, I think you'll continue to see a pattern that we refer to as distribution, which typically happens at the top of markets. When markets have kind of exhausted themselves to the upside, that market starts becoming a funding mechanism for all other markets, right? Yeah. Capital starts migrating to other places. And I think that's what started in earnest. And it makes a whole lot of sense. There's a lot of countries out there that are going to, that have to do these things. They don't have a choice. They got to bring capital back. The other thing that's happening, Chad, is that if you look, like, here's how lopsided it is. If you look at the UK and then you look at the UK's pension system, less than 5% of their pension system is invested domestically. Less than 5.
Wow.
Okay. So when you start seeing these competitive games going on from country to country, okay, it's only a matter of time until a couple of these countries start offering up capital incentives to bring money into their country, right? And people are like, well, the US could do that. And I'm like, guys, the US has got all the money in the world right now. Right? Yeah. All the capital is flooded in here from the last 12 years. So like I said, I don't think we're on the edge of a collapse, but we've exhausted the fund flows. And now they've started flowing out to other countries. And you got to pay attention to that, because what's created this overvaluation in US markets, it's not hard to figure out. We're the only country in the world that has got a viable and trustworthy market that people feel safe to operate in, and has had viable growth for the last decade. Okay, well, that is no longer the case. Okay, so all of those conditions that created this historically overvalued US market and the greatest bull market in US history, a lot of those factors have flipped around. The valuations are not attractive. The growth levels have slowed down. Like I said, fingers crossed, man. One thing this job teaches you is humility, but I'll just tell you right now, this is one of those times, I don't feel like you have them a lot in this career. This is one of those times where you're kind of looking around going, you know what? This seems like a really easy thing to do, right? Like this makes all the sense in the world. I'm going from really expensive to really undervalued. I'm getting quality. I'm getting better dividend income. I'm getting things that are denominated away from the dollar. I think the dollar bear market has started. There's a lot of things out there doing well. It's just not the stuff that people are concentrated in.
Talking to Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer, Bulwark Capital. People want to reach out to you because they should. They want to get into your, and I tell everybody, get into your you got your webinar next week. You'd be foolish not to, because you even said something today. You shorted something. Most people have no idea because they have a cookie cutter thing. Guy watching their 401k or gal watching their they're paying no attention.
Yeah,
they need to get with you. How do they do it?
Yeah, so easiest way to do it is go to bulwarkcapitalmanagement.com. We've got our webinar coming up on the 20th of this month. And in that it's about a 45-minute webinar. We just walk you through how we do what we do. And then more specific, we're going to have more slides this time, specifically talking about the situation that we're currently addressing, because it is very historic, right? And to do well in this environment, you're going to have to do things that investors haven't had to do in a really long time. So we're just going to walk you through that and just show you the data, right? We're not trying to get you to buy into our view on the world. We're just going to show you the data, the information, let you draw your own conclusion. And I think that, I think these things are pretty easy to see once you see them in chart form. And yeah, so anyway, go to bulwarkcapitalmanagement.com, sign up for the webinar. It's free. And should at the very least come away with some more information and better education.
Love it, brother. Love talking to you. Have yourself a good one.
All right. Thanks for having me, man. Fun as always.
Investment advisory services offered through Trek Financial LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific security. Any references to performance of securities are thought to be materially accurate, and actual performance may differ. Investments involve risk and are not guaranteed. Past performance doesn't guarantee future results. Trek 24308.